Biblical Leadership Series by Timothy Von Wald.
Hey there, this is Timothy, and the reason why I came up with the Biblical Leadership series was to show how the Bible highlights leadership principles. And I want to start out by illustrating a problem. Uh, when I worked in fast food, I was, flipping burgers, just like a lot of people have done. And I was so excited when I got my leadership role and they promoted me to a training position. So I had learned the different positions in the store, but now I was training people in the positions that I got really good at. And so they assigned me to this new team member, and it was my job to teach him how to cook the burgers. And alongside, there was this other person who was sort of like a veteran. He was really good. And he was assigned the sandwiches. So my task was to teach the person to cook on the grill. And if it got really busy, then I would help the guy who was on sandwiches too. And so what happened was I would teach the person on the grill. I'd be like having him make a few burgers at a time. And I'd tell him, look up at the chart here. This chart is going to tell you how many burgers to make at this particular time period. So I kept pointing out the chart and saying, okay, now just follow the chart when it comes to making these burgers. Okay. And then we'd get a rush. And so I'd have to step away and I helped the person on sandwiches. And then I came back to the new team member who was on the grill cooking the burgers. And I found out when I checked up on him that he was cooking too many burgers, which was a really big problem because it meant that we had to throw out food, and that was money to our store. That was money lost. So I had to tell him, hey, what you're supposed to be doing is you're supposed to be looking at this chart. This chart will tell you how many burgers to make. You're making too many burgers, so follow the chart. And so I would tell him that, and I would supervise him while he's actually cooking burgers, and then we'd get busy again. So I'd step away and I'd help the sandwich maker, and then I'd come back and find out that he had not listened to what I said the first time. Um, and he was making way too many burgers, and we were still throwing out food. And this happened about two or three times. I got so mad and so frustrated with him that finally I told him, get off the grill. Just help that guy with the sandwiches. I'm going to take over the grill, which wasn't really my job. Um, and then the guy got really upset and yelled. And it's like, I just want to do a good job here, you know. And that was so frustrating because that's all any of us wanted to do was do a good job, you know. And I wondered what was it that got him so upset that made him want to uh, yell back at me like that. And I realized it was because of my unsaid message. When I pulled him off of the grill, I was saying, I don't believe in you. I don't believe you can cook this right. And I wondered, why did I communicate that message to him? And I realized it was because my supervisor had said that same unmessage to me when they said at the beginning, now you're a trainer now. You have to prove that you're a great leader. And it was that proving that you're a leader part, that feeling made me feel like I was not a leader, like I had more work to do, more climbing to do, when the truth of the matter was I'd already been promoted all along. That brings us to the main point of my message, which is that in order to bring out the best in other people, we must show them that we believe they are competent. We must show that we trust in their capabilities. And this is actually highlighted for us in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, verse 40. It says, Then he, speaking of Jesus, asked them, the them is the disciples, Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? The story is a story where Jesus and the disciples are in a boat and they're going across the Sea of Galilee to the other side. But a storm comes up. Jesus is asleep, and the disciples panic. And then they hurry and wake Jesus up, and then they make an accusation against Jesus. Don't you care about us? We're drowning out here. So, needless to say, Jesus gets angry at them. Why did Jesus get angry at the disciples? It was because they stopped believing that God was going to provide for them. And in fact, Jesus was telling the disciples, Hey, I gave you my name, I gave you my authority. Any one of you could have commanded the seas to stop. Any one of you could have asked God to stop the storm, you know, but you didn't, you know. So Jesus was basically saying, I was counting on you. I shouldn't be the one stopping the storm here. You should. And so that helps us understand that the faith that we demonstrate in life is closely tied to a very important leadership principle, and that is the principle of expectancy. According to Vroom in the Introduction to Leadership book, Vroom says the first step in motivating others is to let workers know they are competent to do their jobs. Motivation builds when people know they are able to do the work. And so if you believe that your team can do it, you're already halfway there. That's really cool to think about. You're already halfway there. And so your big challenge is to continue believing in your team, even when things get tough and even when things seem a little uncertain. But the expectancy principle does come with a challenge, and that challenge is trust. Okay? Expectancy means that you manage your team without micromanaging your team. Expectancy means not undermining your stated expectations with your actions. Uh, if the manager is saying, Hey, I believe in you, the worker should not have to say, If you believe in me, why all the cameras? You know, why all the criticism? That type of thing. Um, when I got married, I had to realize that life was very different for me married to my wife Holly than it was when I lived single. When I was single, I did everything myself. I checked the doors to make sure they were locked. I checked the stove to make sure it was turned off before I left. And if I wasn't sure, then I'd go back and check it again. And this was a negative form of expectancy because, in fact, I was expecting myself to fail. That's why I kept checking things over and over. After marriage, I realized I could not treat Holly the same way. If I treated Holly the same way that I was treating myself before we got married, oh, that was going to lead to problems because I would be communicating to my wife that I didn't trust her. And if I don't trust my wife, how can we have any kind of a relationship? Marriage taught me to be a little bit more dependent on my partner. So if I wasn't sure if a door was locked and I said to Holly, Hey, Holly, is that door locked? And she said, Yes. Then in my mind, that was it. You know, no more checking. Because if I kept checking things over and over again, like I did before I got married, it was really going to challenge our relationship, um, really going to undermine it. And so, in conclusion, in order to bring out the best in other people, we must show them that we believe that they are competent. We must show them that we believe in their capabilities and in their motivation. And that means that we can control fewer things. But showing people that we trust them really does help enhance our relationship. And trusting other people is an expression of faith in other people, and trusting in God is an expression of faith in God. And so that's the point that I wanted to leave you with. And I hope that this expectancy both challenges you and encourages you at the same time. This is Timothy.
Check out other episodes in this series and other great series.